Welcome to Scotch. My name's Ophelia Hopkins. I'm the Head of Future Pathways here, and we're really happy to see you all here. Thank you for coming for this Education USA session. For those of you who don't know Samantha Jackson, she essentially represents the US Consulate here for Education USA help, suggestions. Oh, sorry, I made that pop. Anything like that. If you have any questions regarding your admissions, she's your gal. Once you do your one-stop shop at your careers, whatever school you're at, you then also let Samantha in on the process so that you can make sure you're ticking all the boxes. And between us, we make sure that you have every opportunity to get into whichever college it is that you've chosen as being your favourites for whatever the destination is. I welcome you to Scotch, and I welcome you to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We are incredibly proud to have this event here tonight on these lands that were never ceded, and we acknowledge elders past, present and future. And if you're an Indigenous person here tonight, we particularly warmly welcome you, and we hope that you feel safe in this space. We're really looking forward to tonight's event. And you have time for questions after as well. So I know Samantha will walk you through the kind of logistics of tonight as well, but just so that you know not to sort of stress. If you have a burning question, you'll have a chance to have it answered. Okay, I'm going to hand back over to Samantha now and stop being the person hogging the microphone. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ophelia. To Scotch College, thank you for having me tonight as well. As Ophelia said, my name is Samantha Jackson. I've been working at the US Consulate coming on 10 years. In a past life, I myself was an NCAA Division I athlete. So just so we have a sense of what we're going to cover tonight, has anyone been to any of my sessions before? Hands up. Okay, a couple of hands, not many. And that's fine, because that actually lets me understand where perhaps your knowledge base is and how we're going to move through tonight's proceedings. Just from a point of interest, and I'm probably going to have Stephanie do a bit of a swivel head look in a second. I know you're here to hear from Stephanie Ratcliffe, and I'll do formal introductions with Stephanie a little bit later in the proceedings. So how we're going to work, tonight's session should be an hour and a half. I will try and make up a little bit in lost time. I am going to share some things in a PowerPoint that are going to help you preliminary understand what some of those steps are going to be as a student athlete, and then how that recruitment phase will kick off or start, or for some of you get very close if you're in Year 12. So just from a show of hands in the room, who is in Year 12? Hands up. Okay, so if you're in Year 12 and this is the first time of meeting me, I'm a little nervous, but I'll tell you why I'm a little bit nervous later. And you can certainly fill a whole lot of gaps even if you're in Year 12. Year 11? Great. Year 10? Great. Year 9? Okay. Not that I want everyone yelling all at once, but can we list a couple of sports that we're here for tonight? Tennis? Hands up. Soccer? Water polo, athletics, NFL football. Are you going to be a kicker or you're a positional player? Great. There's a lot of sports I haven't said. Rowing? Great. Men's rowing? Hands up. Okay. And we'll talk to you why that's important in a minute as well. Let me just see that all this works. As Ophelia nicely mentioned, I work at the US Consulate. I am paid a wage to deliver a free service to everyone in Australia about going to US colleges. So we are your authoritative official source on US higher education. We have an amazing relationship with every university and college that we represent in the US. And if we don't have one-on-one relationships, then we can easily make those relationships happen. We are going to record tonight's session. It will take us a little while to edit and subtitle and meet our government protocol, but we will have it uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. The reason the books are here for you tonight, it's really the reward for your sons and daughters in the audience, because one of the things I'm going to tell you is that you need to start researching, and that's your go-to notepad. So every time you do some research about US colleges, you put it in the notepad and it's always in one spot. So hence why they have come tonight, hence my reward to also parents in the room. But it really was given to you for the design to give to your sons and daughters so that they can start compiling that information. As I said, I love my job. I was a student athlete. I still wear my college graduation ring. I'm not as cool in having some NCAA championship rings. I didn't see if they were on Stephanie's hands tonight. I don't think they are. So I don't have those cool rings, but we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I look after Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, and the Northern Territory. So I'm your go-to person in that regard as well. Whenever you come to Education USA programming, we tend to do a lot of things in the 5 steps. And if you went into another office in another country and you saw EducationUSA advisor, similar to me, they would also do it within the 5 steps. We are not going to get far and research your options tonight, and we're going to touch on a couple of things, but we're really going to stay within step 1 tonight. I also want tonight to be a bit of an educational piece. I hope you learn tonight that I'm nice. I hope you learn tonight that I'm knowledgeable. I hope you learn tonight that I am real. And what I mean by that is sometimes if you ask me a question, you may not like the answer. Now, what I mean by that is if you're a tennis player or you're a basketball player and you're 5'6" and you want to go to Duke and you're not in the Australian basketball team, I'm probably going to tell you you're not going to get to Duke. So that's what I mean by being real. If you are a men's tennis player in particular, and all you want to do is go to an NCAA program, and you want to go to Division I, then I am going to say your UTR needs to be very close to 13. So I am going to be real in regards to all of those things. One of the things I love about the US is that I think there are universities in Australia that are starting to have elite athlete programs, but they are still very separate train lines. What happens in the US, and I love this illustration, is it really becomes the one train line, is that your US colleges, where you choose to go to, will support you to succeed in both being a student and being an athlete, and they are very complementary, and the train always travels in the right direction, not against each other. I think if you choose to stay in Australia, and there is nothing wrong with that, there are always going to be 2 different train lines going in 2 different directions. And again, that's okay, but that's just one of the differences within the process and what that US college experience is like. I also said I want you to learn a couple of things tonight. When you start doing your college research, you are going to look at a whole lot of institutional names. I challenge you and ask you to put on college names that you perhaps have not heard of. Now, we're going to talk to Stephanie a little bit later, and Stephanie went to Harvard for her undergraduate studies, and that was her best fit program. That matched her academic rigour, that matched her academic skills, and it certainly matched her athletic skills as well. So it always is about finding that best fit. You can be a good student and you need to work really hard. So if you're getting B's and C's in classes, that's okay, and you'll find a US institution that will be your best fit. But you can't have B's and C's in classes and think you're going to get to Harvard. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about having those expectations correct. And I'm also wanting to share that I want you to reach for the stars. I want to help you reach those stars, but sometimes it is about having a realistic list of what your goals are. One of the other things I meant to mention here is that if you do some research and the institutional name has the word university in it, what it traditionally means is that you can go there and do your undergrad, master's and PhD all at the same program. If the word college is in the institutional name, the general rule is that that's the place you'll go to for your first degree and your undergraduate studies only. Now, hands up who's a basketball player? All right, I'm going to look at this quadrant of the room for a second. Please tell me where Steph Curry went to school. Thank you. Davidson what? Davidson College. So what that nicely tells me is like, Davidson College, that's only an undergraduate institution, a very good one, but you only go there for your first degree. So I would be open to any sort of university and college, and in a lot of respects, those names are used interchangeably. So in the US, it often means the same thing. Okay, does that make sense? Great. Researching options. One of the things that I did not talk to my wonderful Scotch team about a second ago is I do want to show you some live internet sites. So let me get through a bit of the PowerPoint and then I'll bring those sites back, okay? Because I want to show you a couple of things and then I want to make sure that we get Stephanie up here sooner rather than later. Because none of you have been to my sessions, I just want to really lay some groundwork and some things for you. When you go to a university in Australia, you are picking from 42 institutions across Australia. When you're going to the US, you are picking from over 4,000. I also ask you not to be fearful of that. That is a wonderful opportunity, and that research piece can be actually quite exhilarating and quite a nice process. And there's different types of universities. So there's public institutions and there's private institutions. University of Georgia is a public institution. Harvard University is a private institution. In regards to rankings, please proceed with caution. Rankings don't officially exist. There are some wonderful companies in the world that create rankings to suck you all in, okay? So I would say you need to be careful if you use rankings. And if you are going to use rankings, what do those rankings mean? Is it a particular program? And then maybe the ranking has more validity. But what is the ranking really measuring? So be careful that you're very familiar with that, or understand, if you're going to use rankings, how you're going to use that. In regards to selectivity, there's probably less than 2% of universities that accept less than 10% people. So that's not many. So don't get caught up too much in the selectivity either. So just do that within reason and understand what that means. And when you start researching with US colleges, what they have done really well is that they have admissions officers and they have international admissions officers, because they want to make sure that the international students that they bring to their campus to internationalise their campuses, and that's why it is very attractive to have Australians on their campus, they will always be talking about fit. Are we the right fit for you? And they will equally tell you if they don't think they're the right fit, and they may also suggest other institutions that you can be considering. How to start? It really is about researching. But when you leave tonight, it's about starting the research, and it's about just doing it. So as Nike says, I would just do it and just start it. And there is a lot of fear attached to that, and I'm going to talk about some of the fear that I see in families and students, and we'll get rid of that fear, and we're going to obviously talk about a tall poppy syndrome, and we're going to get rid of that too, because I think that's very challenging for Australians, because one of the things you need to do to US college is that you need to have a brag sheet. Now, there's a way that you can brag, and there's a way that you can't brag, but it becomes really important, because let me tell you, all the Americans that are trying to get into those colleges, they are bragging, all right? So you need to equally do that as well. And I'm going to say, when you do the research for US colleges, doing it in time chunks is really nice, and it feels a lot more manageable. When you go, oh my God, Samantha, there's 4,000, how do I start? When you do it in an hour, you go, okay, that wasn't so hard. Okay, so breaking it down into time chunks becomes really, really important. It's never too early to start, and I don't want to talk about all these slides, but I have cut down tonight's presentation to get through my portion of the talk before I bring Stephanie up. Because we're all in the room and you want to be student athletes, I'm presuming that you all want to be recruited as a student athlete. If you're only applying for academic entry, and some of you may have siblings that are doing that, you're best to shortlist 5 to 7 schools for academic entry. You may have to communicate with up to 30, 40, 50 coaches before you find that perfect coach. But we'll talk a little bit about that as well. There are also some great search tools. I want to show you one tonight before we let Stephanie come up, because I want to show you how you can get through those 4,000 schools. And we're going to use Stephanie as an example. She doesn't know that yet, but we will. And Stephanie goes, I remember Samantha doing this with me before. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. I think College Board Big Future is probably the tool that I like the most. However, what they did recently is that you can no longer search your college sport by Division I, II or III, which I think is a real shame. However, if you use niche.com, That also lets you do search by divisions 1, 2, and 3 for your sport. So again, cross-using those tools becomes really helpful. I'm going to show you this tool in a second, but I want to talk to you about the sport options. You have the 2-year community colleges. One of the sports that we didn't mention, any baseballers in the room? No, I think that was a no. So again, it would depend in regards to what sport you played. So if you're playing baseball, and every American plays baseball when they're like this big, you need to be incredibly talented at baseball. And we have been seeing that a lot of baseballers in Australia choose to go to the 2-year community college route first. And that can be done for a number of reasons. It can be done like baseball. Maybe you're not good enough in your sport to be recruited for NCAA. You could do it because you haven't met the academic rigour of NCAA. Again, that's fine. Or you may say, you know what, Samantha, we can go to a 2-year community college. I can do all my general education subjects because I don't know what I want to study yet. We can easily afford this because it's really a lot more inexpensive. And we can then try and transfer to a 3-4-year college and I can finish off my degree if my sport develops and another coach wants to recruit me at an NCAA school. Does that make sense? Okay, so when we're talking about 4-year universities, there are also 2 different associations. One is the NAIA, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. They are known as the small college specialist. And again, that could be someone's incredibly good fit. I have a tennis player that I worked with perhaps 5 years ago. They went to a Division I NCAA program. They were there for over a year. It was not a good fit for them. They didn't like it. So they went to an NAIA school and they had a wonderful experience. So again, it's about working out where your fit is. The most famous college sport association, because of basketball, is the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. So if everyone had a magical wand today, which association would you want to go to? NCAA, hands up. Great. Has anyone heard about the other 2? Great. Would some of you might consider it, or are you going NCAA or nothing? Okay. So that's great in regards to just knowing the options. I just want you to know the options and all those good fits will happen. You obviously need to have your sport listed. They're the junior college or community colleges. Hopefully your sport is there. California thinks it's its own country, so it doesn't exist within the community colleges NJCAA. They created their own 2-year community college association. That's what that one's called. They also don't give scholarships to international students, but again, it's a lot more inexpensive to go to those institutions. These are the NAIA sports, and I'll leave it there for a second for you to review. And these are your NCAA sports. And I wanted to make sure I could see flag football there. Can I see flag football? So any day now, flag football will be added for a women's sport. And if your sport's not listed, do not panic. If you're an NCAA want to go that way, that's great. I had some men rowers in the room. You're like, oh my God, rowing's not up there. The reason why is that men's rowing US colleges existed many years ago, and because they've been existent for so long, they have their own association. Now, interestingly enough, they're not an NCAA sport, but they follow a lot of the NCAA guidelines, which means you often need to do the NCAA core courses. Funny that, isn't it? You're like, but Samantha, it's not an NCAA sport. I'm like, I know. But again, a lot of those schools are from highly selective, and rowing tends to be a predominantly East Coast sport. So if you've noticed, they very much do that. And what you have to decide as a student athlete, remembering you're a student first and athlete second, is are you going to use your sport or your events to get you into the best program, Or do you want your sports also to get you into the best universities? So again, they can be very much happening in tandem. The eligibility centres, there are two that you need to worry about, the NAIA and the NCAA. I think most of you want to be NCAA wannabe student athletes, and that's great. So I'm going to focus a little bit on this today, but I want to make sure you get all the information when I send it to you. If you haven't set up a profile account with the NCAA, my challenge for this long weekend is to set it up. It will take you about 45 minutes, and I would do a free profile, option 1 page first. I would have mum and dad keep their $160 in their wallet for as long as they can, and the only reason you pay that $160 is a couple of things. A, you start communicating with coaches and they start communicating with you. B, they want to invite you on a recruitment trip, which they will pay for, and they need you to have a certification account. So the only thing that sends it to a certification account is by paying the $160 to the NCAA. And they will review your grades, your eligibility, everything moving forward. It will take about 45 minutes. It's no good having your mums and dads do it because you'll have to put all your classes for high school, and you're the best person that knows that. So sitting together might be a great idea. But if you are sitting in the room thinking that your mum and dad are going to do all of this for you, that's the first mistake. Equally, if you're sitting in the room and the parents are going to go, I'm going to make all their decisions, that is also a further mistake, because in the end, it's your sons and daughters being recruited, not us as mums and dads. All right, so you're very involved in this, in the process, absolutely. But in the end, coaches are recruiting your sons and daughters. They're not recruiting you as the parent. Again, the NAIA, again, has two forms of registration. You need to create an eligibility account, but as an international student, you also need to pay for them to review your classes. So I would not register with this one at all unless you are communicating with those coaches. But again, knowing how that works. I'm not going to go into the NAI eligibility tonight, but also know that there are really great websites and resources to help you find programs. And often you can't find them, which is why you connect with us. I'm going to close this for a minute, and I want to show you some very quick websites, and then I'm going to bring Stephanie and David to the stage. And one of the things that I'm also going to talk about is that I work for the US government. I don't think you need to be using any companies to help you get to US colleges. And I work for the US government. I certainly cannot endorse any of those companies. That being said, this is a paid company called IMG Academy, but why this is a bit different, and has anyone ever found this website? Hands up. Okay, so no one's really used it before. Why this website is fantastic is that they have a lot of resources for you to unpack and look at. They have timelines. They have a breakdown of sports. They have what you should be putting in your recruitment videos for your own respective sports. You can set up a free profile page on this account, and if you do that, the company will contact you once and give you a free session, and then they will say, we can now charge you money. You can say, thank you very much, don't need to be charged money, but if my situation changed, I know I can reach back to you, and you can also access their free resources. Where to go for information? The universities are the authoritative place. I actually put the name of that college there, which is a mistake, because if anyone named the college, I would give you a chocolate frog. And the reason why I've put it there, has anyone heard of Denison College? Oh, there's one person. I would give you a chocolate frog. But I think what's great about Denison, it's a liberal arts college, highly selective, but it's probably not in anyone's searches. And then I'm going to challenge you to start listening to our Graduate in the USA podcast series. Not that I want to talk AFL football, and not that I want to talk Collingwood, but does anyone remember Mason Cox when he was a Collingwood player? Is anyone barrack for Collingwood? Oh, sorry. But we interviewed Mason Cox. Heather Marini used to be the quarterback coach at Brown University. She is an Australian. She has come back to Australia. She's now working at the NFL Academy up on the Gold Coast. And we've also interviewed her about a coach and how you can be profiled in the US. So I challenge you to listen to Graduate in the USA podcast series. I also tell you to go back to our YouTube channel, because that's where we're going to put this episode, and that's where you'll see a whole lot of our other recordings. Our website's not that great, but we are trying to put better information on our website. We can put a whole lot more freedom of stuff on our YouTube channel. And all the students in the room, please don't laugh. I know you don't Facebook. You're Instagramming, you're Snapchatting. Well, it depends. Are you above 16? But you can go to the Facebook page even if you're under 16. I challenge you to like and follow it. I work for the US government. Doing anything in speed is hard, but this is where we communicate with you. Go to our events tab. Everything that is there is advertised there. You'll see Stephanie's session tonight advertised on the events tab. And again, we'll put tips all the way through on our Facebook page. I won't tell your friends you're on our Facebook page, but circularly like and follow it. I often meet families and they go, but Samantha, how do we learn about this? This is so difficult. I think we've got a lot of Year 9, Year 10s and Year 11s in the room. This is a brilliant online study course. They say 14 hours. I reckon you can get it done in maybe 8 to 10. But it will take you through a whole lot of modules about helping you to find your best fit at US colleges. It is a brilliant online tool and you get a beautiful certificate at the end. But it is something that parents and students can be doing independently or separate as well. You've got all the resources tonight. I'm going to give you my contacts in an after-event email. So people that come to my events get my full contacts, including my phone numbers. Please don't call my mobile number at midnight, but please know that you can reach out to me with questions as well. So with that, why you're here tonight is really to listen to Stephanie and David. So as I bring them to the stage, I have the honour of introducing you to Stephanie and also introducing you to David. So David has come saying they really want to listen to my daughter too, Samantha, but I know from a parent perspective you're going to get some wonderful things out of tonight. We have got a series of questions that we're going to take Stephanie through, and hopefully we'll have some time at the Q&A at the end for you also to ask your own questions. But in a code of safety and where we are, we're not going to be able to answer probably any personal questions that you have tonight in detail. I also want to give Stephanie the chance to say if that question is too complicated or my brain is too tired because I've been training this morning, Samantha, we're going to give her permission that she can say pass and we'll keep on moving. So are we okay with that? All right. So we are really fortunate to have Stephanie Ratcliffe and her dad David here. Stephanie has been back in Melbourne a little while and she's now based back at the Victorian Institute of Sport where she is a hammer thrower, if you did not know that in seeing her bio. What's pretty amazing is it's not often that I meet one NCAA champion, but to meet two NCAA champions is even rarer. And Stephanie has won the NCAA hammer throwing championship twice. I know that you're going to be captivated by our discussions tonight and our honesty that we can share with you. I met the family through their journey when they are sitting in a room similar to tonight, when Stephanie was towards the end of Year 10, moving into Year 11. Things can happen when you have the desire and when you have the focus to make things happen. So they're going to share a bit of a snapshot on a little bit of their recruiting process and an insight on what that college life is like and how supporting a daughter from afar works. And my mum will still tell me that it was some of the hardest days of her life. But it's interesting when you let your children grow wings and you tell them that they can do anything, then all of a sudden you can't stop them when they go, I think a US college pathway could be really good, Mum and Dad. And you go, oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant go down the road to University of Melbourne. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and you still could go down to the University of Melbourne. But when you give them wings, let them keep on flying is what I say. Stephanie completed her first degree at Harvard University in 2023 with an AB in neuroscience. You're like, Samantha, what's an AB? Well, funny you ask, that is all about Latin. So does anyone do Latin at school? Okay, so you may know what AB is. Do you know? No. So it stands for Artium Baccalaureus. So it's the Latin for Bachelor of Arts. And then Stephanie recently completed her MBA and her Masters in Business Analytics and graduated from the Terry College of Business with the University of Georgia. One of the things that Stephanie lived through that I hope no one ever has to live through again is COVID, which is why she was able to have 2 college experiences, and we'll talk about that. So they were her homes for a little while in those respective colleges. And as I said, since returning to Melbourne, she's now based at the VIS. And she is continuing to be an elite track and field athlete. She currently holds the Australian record in women's hammer throw. She represented Australia in the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris and did the qualifying throw when she was in college, Yale College. She's competed in the 2025 World Athletics Championship in Tokyo and the 23 World Championships in Budapest. She won our first NCAA Championship in 2023. She holds the Ivy League and Harvard all-time record. And while completing at the University of Georgia, she won her second individual NCAA Championship. And what's really special about being in US colleges is that you are really part of a team. And in 2025, the University of Georgia athletics team won the NCAA Championship as well. So with that, I know that you're not going to be disappointed with the questions that we're going to move through tonight. So I'm going to move from this place and I'm going to take my chair next to her. So they nicely turned on my microphone because they all have different rules and they all have some feedback. All right, so let's get comfortable. And then I feel like I'm being Stephen Colbert now and I have my speech cards. So we're going to move through some questions. But before I move through some of the questions, we're talking about a tall poppy syndrome. When I mention the introduction, and this is question unnoticed, so when you hear that, what do you think in regards to your introduction? Can you believe that's you?
It's pretty special, like looking back on it now. Like back, I was just like you guys. I mean, a while ago now, but it doesn't feel like that long ago. I feel like I've been lucky enough to have so many cool experiences, travel the world, compete against some of the best people in the world, get some pretty cool degrees, set me up for my future. So I don't know, it's pretty cool just listening to it. It also feels uncomfortable when people are talking about me as well, but yeah.
And that's interesting because when you apply to US colleges, it feels uncomfortable because they are going to ask you to brag about yourself. And that is not something that Australians are very good at, especially when there's something called a tall poppy syndrome and everyone wants to cut you down at the knees. So you really need to work through that. And hopefully we'll give you some strategy tonight and some courage to continue to do that. So I know I met you at about year 10, but when did you realise that perhaps studying in the US was something you really wanted to do and really wanted to follow?
Yeah, I mean, like the first time I heard about being a student athlete in the US was I was doing an Athletics Victoria Target Talent Program. These are like different days throughout the year. You get some coaching and there'd be different information sessions. So one of the recruitment companies, like Samantha mentioned earlier, came and presented to us and said, you know, you could go over here, be a student athlete, give them some money, and then they'll find you somewhere. So what really stood out to me, though, was being able to pursue both athletics and academics at the same time. I value both very highly, always have. And so it's a pretty unique experience over there and just something that doesn't really exist here. Yeah.
So, Dad, when you heard about US college pathways, what were you thinking? Was this excitement? Was this trepidation? Was this is never going to happen, I'm going to help her anyway, and, oh, we tried. And then, hang on a minute, she's going.
Yeah, well, as Steph said, from the first meeting with the recruitment company, we didn't realise that something like this would be possible for Steph to go through her studies and her sporting pursuits in a cohesive environment that could work hand in hand together. And it's very similar to your train track that was up on the board. Like here it was do her studies and separately do her athletics, but over there it was going to be combined, so it was exciting.
And I think it's hard to fathom that you get world-class coaching in the US at such a high level. And that's what it's like when you walk onto a campus. And what you have as international students is you have two immediate families. You have your athletic family and you have your international student family. And then you can actually have that mechanisms both ways in regards to how that supports and how that can be a real advantage for international students as well. So I think what's interesting in regards to that, the recruiting process can be long and it's an investment of time. And I think as a family, when you drive the process on your own, you have full control of where that process can take your sons and daughters. So talking about the process, and I know it was quite an investment of time, tell us about that experience and some of the things that you've learned and some of the things that you think helped your recruitment.
Yeah, I mean, well, we considered the recruitment companies briefly, but upon more research, we found Samantha. We found that there's heaps of tools out there to help us do it ourselves. And like you say, control, that's such a big thing for me. I love being in control. I think humans, we love being in control. So if you can take control of that process and you have the ability to put your own best foot forward, you're not relying on someone else speaking on your behalf, not relying on them speaking to coaches, you're the first point of contact, you're getting that information. That means that you have everything you need. You don't need to worry about someone else interpreting it differently for you. I think it's really powerful to just do it yourself and you get all that full info.
Yeah, and David, obviously, you know, sometimes you can come to it from different places. You had coaches that ran a session, you know, a private company might be the first way in. But I would say, I know I'm biased, but I actually don't think you need to pay money. And you go, but how much money, Samantha? You know what? If it's under $5,000, maybe that's a good investment of money if they can achieve things and they've got a success record. But some of these up-and-coming companies are charging $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 on the promises of nothing. And they also don't have the relationship with US colleges. And I'm not saying don't use them. I would prefer that you don't. But if you did want to use them, we have a series of questions that you can be making sure that you're asking them. Because you need to make sure that if you are going to invest that money and you can afford it, then make sure they're working in the right ways for you. But again, we don't think you need to use them. And most people in the US would never use agents or organisations like that. And also remembering that you think you're doing this and it's hard for every American. Like, this is not an easy process. What is a little bit harder is making that coach relationship, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as we move forward. So let's talk about the recruitment process. Did you do a video, or did you let your results talk for you? And again, before I let Stephanie answer that, if you are an Australian athlete and you are on Australian teams, then you have your results can speak of that. If you are not on Australian teams and travelling internationals and US coaches cannot see you, then you building a relationship becomes really a whole lot more important. If you are doing a sport like Stephanie, which is hammer throw, and it's very measurable, or swimming, and your time is your time is your time, then you can be recruited a whole lot easier because it's very easy to evaluate your skill. If you are playing a team sport, sometimes that is a whole lot more difficult to show coaches how good you are. So again, it depends on where your sport is. So I know Stephanie had some Australian results that were really good, but tell us about the recruitment process.
Yeah, I mean, like, the recruitment process is huge, as you guys are probably figuring out now. There's a lot of things that have to happen. I feel like you say with the videos, a strategy I used was I made a Facebook page for my athletics. So I would post athletic achievements, I would post training videos, competition videos, just so the coaches could like visibly see what I was doing. Yeah, so I use that. I mean, if you want me to go through the process generally, beyond just that, I kind of started with trying to figure out what exactly I wanted in a college. Like you say, there's 4,000 colleges. How on earth are you going to get it to a top 5? And for me, like, different things came into play. I knew I wanted to go to Div 1. I knew academics was a really big priority for me. The coach, obviously, is important, but Another thing to mention is like the coaches aren't always, they move around, like they're moving and trying to go up in their career as well. So even if a coach recruits you, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be there. Like you're talking to them in year 9, year 10, that's a while before you're actually going to move over there. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing, weather, location. I didn't take that into consideration. I ended up in Boston where it snowed for 4 months a year. So I definitely probably should have considered that, but it worked out in the end. But yeah, we used your tools to make an athletic resume, a template email. I had a list of schools I wanted to approach, and I just emailed them. Just kept contacting them, found the head coach, the throws coach specifically, and just literally emailed and emailed and emailed. I sent so many emails those few years. But then the communication's open, and it becomes really, really rewarding. So.
And you answered that really, really well. And what we'll do things in reverse engineer. We're going to show you a couple of website searches, and I'm going to use Stephanie as my guinea pig in regards to doing that. And I think what was really interesting there was it was about that academic fit and really finding that. So you answered it really well. David, from a dad's perspective and a family perspective, you know, how did you support that mechanism of her reaching out to coaches, of compiling the information? Was it layers and layers of spreadsheets? Tell me about how you think you managed to compile that information and take some of the load off, Stephanie.
Yeah, as Steph said, yeah, there was a lot involved. So you're correct, there was a spreadsheet. We had, I think, the top 100 ranked Div 1 schools, and we just worked our way. I think we sort of started maybe outside the top 20 and started emailing all the coaches off and trying to get an idea how that was going to work. And before then, we started really reaching into the top 20 that she was really focused on. So those sort of schools or unis came later on. But yeah, there was plenty of emailing going on and whatnot. So yeah.
And I didn't put this in a question, but did anyone take you over for a recruitment trip?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough, I'd narrowed it down to 3 kind of schools. Decided to go on an official visit with 2 of them. I did a visit to Duke and a visit to Harvard. So, yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, official visit, the school pays for like your flights, accommodation, everything to go visit them for 48 hours. So I combined that in like a 5-day trip, in and out, just before I did my year 12 exam, so timing wasn't great, but yeah, we made it work.
And it's not unusual that coaches will share the costs. So Duke is also know that she's going to Harvard. So they know they are basically speed dating Stephanie for 48 hours. That, you know, take her in to see the coaches, the teammates, all those kind of things. So if you're lucky enough to do a recruitment trip, they will cover all the costs. You can do recruitment trips that are non-official. But again, one of the hard things is about building that coach relationship. So I went to the US and picked my institution without going to visit. So I did it all from afar. So it can be possible doing it either or. That's never ideal. But how many people really will go down the road and visit University of Melbourne and Monash, really? Like, are you really going to go and visit? Like, so sometimes it's just a given, I'm going to go there. So without kind of doing that whole investment of time and going through that perspective as well. Stephanie and David have been really generous with their time tonight and have given me permission to sort of ask this next question, because I don't know, just a show of hands, who Googled Stephanie Ratcliffe knowing that she was going to present here tonight? Oh my God, Stephanie, no one tonight, but after tonight, they're all going to Google you and they may go to your Wikipedia page. So this is probably going to be all a bit new to you and that you may not know this. So before we dive a little bit deeper into the unpacking, I'm not saying that anyone in this room is a helicopter parent, but you have met helicopter parents, maybe. So what you may not know is that Stephanie has grown up being a type 1 diabetic. Now with that, there is a real management for her health. So Stephanie has daily insulin shots. And what that entails, and if you follow her Instagram page, she will shares it really openly. So she does have jelly beans in her bag, so if we need to go to that bag later in the presentation, that is why. But I'm going to talk to you as a family. Like, that was a really big consideration to the US, and I know I had copious conversations with your dad at some stages, like, Samantha, how do we do this? You know, and that's where it's really important that you can openly talk to all these coaches and talk to their health teams about, if we send Stephanie to you, we want to have a meeting about how you can help us manage this. So I'm going to talk from a dad perspective first. Tell us about this, because I know as parents we all care for our kids and we want to keep them safe. But tell us a little bit about that experience, which might be a little bit different than what Stephanie's going to share in regards to something that she manages, which is just her life. It's just normal for her.
Correct, yeah. So Steph's had diabetes since she was 6 years old, and she was probably 10 years plus she'd had it by the time we started looking at universities and the pathway that she was considering taking. So she's very independent, had good control of her diabetes, and we were comfortable with where she was at with that. But there was a big unknown moving overseas. She was going to have our support, medical support, diabetes supplies are a big thing. So there's a lot of these unknowns. So we discussed this with the coaches. We had a lot of online video calls, and as we narrowed down the uni that she may wish to go to, then we sort of asked it a few more specific questions of how they could help manage this with Steph in that space. So, and then we got comfortable. So it all worked out in the end, and yeah, she survived.
So Stephanie, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about being a student athlete, and I've kind of probably changed the question. You go, Samantha, that wasn't in the question list. And I think what's really interesting when you're a student athlete in the US is first you're a student and then you're an athlete. So the institution you go to, they need you to graduate. And if you don't graduate, that gets bad marks for the coaches. So that's one of the things that coaches need to keep their jobs. They need people on their team to graduate. So that's why you need to look at graduation rates when you're looking at some of these US colleges in regards to, you know, if it becomes a good fit. And sometimes a coach wants to just focus on their job, and that's the coach, and sometimes they might lose sight of the academics, but they're pulled back very quickly that you're a student first and you're an athlete second. And we often meet families and students that I meet with and go, Samantha, I am going to get 99 in my ATAR. You know, surely they're going to get, you know, let me go to Harvard even though I only play rep basketball. And I'm going to go, no. What's really interesting about those selective institutions is you need the package of both for those institutions. You need to be an incredibly good athlete and you need to be an incredibly good student. And what's also interesting about being a student athlete, it's almost 2 full-time jobs. It's 30 hours in the classroom, as in 15 course hour credits and at least 15 hours homework, maybe more. And then you've got another sort of 30 hours, another part-time job, which is being the athlete. So you're looking at 80 hours within the course of 24 hours over 7 days. Talk to us about the balance and how student athletes become so good at being able to manage that, and the mechanisms that you had at your university to make you be successful in both.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It is like you're trying to give 100% to 2 things, and you've only got so much time in a week. I guess even just me, like a typical day for me was like you're in the classroom 9 to 2:30, very different to Australian universities, which seems to be a little more like in and out, a lot of remote stuff. But yeah, you're physically in the classroom for that amount of time. You have to run, try get lunch on the way to training. Training from 3 to 6:30, you've got lift, you've got, you know, your practice out at the track, you've got recovery, time with the athletic trainers and physios. And then you're just trying to make the dining hall before it closes for dinner. But yeah, what's at 7:30, you haven't even started your readings, your homework, your assignment. That's got to fit in somewhere. So I know for me especially, that first year of college was a big adjustment. I found myself staying up to 2 a.m. Quite regularly. But that's just not sustainable. It's all right for a little while, but you get exhausted. So I think, yeah, you learn very quickly how to adjust, how to prioritize, make lists. There's going to be different things you can compromise on. And there's going to be things that you can't. You know, you've got your scheduled practice time, you've got to be there. And you kind of got to work your life around it. One thing I will mention, definitely find time for yourself. I think it's very easy to get swept up. You're trying to do this, athletics and academics, everything. But don't lose sight that we're all human, we're not robots, and we do need time for ourselves. So that self-care is really, really important not to lose sight of when you do move over to somewhere like America as a student athlete.
Yeah, great response. And I think you come to my sessions long enough, you'll start being able to listen and read recordings. And when you listen to more and more sessions, you go, oh, I get it now. I understand best fit. I understand how important that is in regards to making sure it's best fit. So Stephanie missed my pre-departure talk a little bit about, you know what, being sustainable to 2am, it's not sustainable. But let's be honest here. She went to Harvard, which has an amazing academic rigour. So if you're wired like that and you're gifted academically, and Stephanie is, and gifted athletically, then Harvard can still be a great fit for you. So sometimes you need to realise that may be your best fit. But if you have to work really hard in the classroom to get your results, then also know that that stress will go to you depending on what kind of US college and what kind of academic rigour they have. And what we try and teach you about it in that selection is how you identify academic rigour and how it can become a best fit. So if I had a magical wand and you could go to anywhere tonight, is there anyone brave enough to say, Samantha, I want to go here? And I know I've probably scared you, because when I walk into a room and I go, where do you want to go? What I hear is Harvard, Yale, Cornell, Tufts, Stanford, UCLA. Now, there is nothing wrong with any of those institutions, and they may well be your best fits. But my question to you is, why do you like that school? Oh, because the ranking's good, Samantha. And because I sound cool at a family barbecue. That's why I want to go to those schools. That's not the right reason to go to those schools. If you come to me and say, Samantha, I want to go to Stanford, I'm going to go, great. Why do you want to go to Stanford? Well, it's a mid-sized school. I'm like, okay, great. How many students? 60,000. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. You've not researched. So Stanford has about 16,000 students on campus. So it's a mid-sized range. And you'll say to me, but Samantha has got gum trays that line the entry, so I'm going to feel like I'm always at home. And I have been running my own business since high school. I've been able to self-fund a lot of my Stanford college costs. And I know they have the #1 entrepreneurial program in the country, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Then all of a sudden I'm like, you've researched Stanford, that is great, and that is probably going to be your best fit. So that's where that college sort of research becomes really, really important. So Stephanie nicely spoke about balancing her load and the NCAA load. David, before I go to the next question, and you knew she was staying up till 2 a.m, or maybe you didn't, what's some of the messaging that you tried to do from afar, and how did that kind of work? Like when I went to college, we just got computers and laptops. We didn't have FaceTime. So you came through FaceTime, so at least you could connect and see family, and I think that makes a huge difference for you all. But before you answer that question, one of the other things that I think is really important, and I've never really asked Stephanie this, is that if you are going to be recruited as an athlete, and you asked me the question, Samantha, would you have roommates with people that you in the same team? And I would say no. I lived with my freshman roommate on the golf team my first year. I made the playing team from day one, and she never did. Now that becomes really difficult and somewhat hostile in some elements, or can. But what is also interesting is that it's about finding your networks. You are going to be with your athletic team a lot. So to have a different subgroup that you can try and never live with someone who is on your physical team. Being with a student athlete might be important. But I never asked Stephanie, who did you live with? Tell us a little bit about that story, or what do you think? That's what I think. I would try and encourage not to live with my fellow teammates, but what about you?
Yeah, I mean, well, freshman year at Harvard, they we did surveys and they placed us with other people. So I didn't have a choice in that. But then, yeah, second, third, fourth year, I got to choose my roommates, and I chose my teammates.
Tell us more. But hang on, no one was a hammer thrower, right?
Exactly, and that's what I'm going to say. We were all different events, so it wasn't like you were competing like directly against each other. And honestly, I just clicked really well with them. We did everything together. We ate together, we studied together, obviously trained together. And it was just really, really nice. It was kind of like my own little family away from home. We're from 4 different countries, so we had that international link as well. Yeah, so I decided to live with them for my last 3 years, and it worked out really well. We were lucky we had our own like single rooms. I know if you're actually like in a double, maybe it gets a little bit much. So we had our separate spaces that we could like go chill out in. But yeah, I feel like I was really lucky to have them. So it was a really good experience for me, but I do see how it could also not be.
Yeah, and it's much different when you don't have a fellow hammer thrower that you're trying to compete against for the following day. But again, you may not have a choice. Maybe the whole tennis team lives together. We helped someone go to Tufts not too long ago, and all the tennis team lived together. So if that's how it rolls, then that's how it rolls. But again, it's okay to know that, you know, sometimes you're going to be a bit pissy at your roommates. That's okay. You know, does anyone have siblings? I bet you're pissy at them sometimes too. And maybe even mum and dad sometimes, but we're all human, okay? So it's really important to have those mechanisms. Stephanie, tell us about the biggest adjustments and then transition when you arrived. Because often we do pre-departure and we say, you know, you need to give yourselves 3 months to really kind of learn it and the process. And one of the things that I'll mention before I want, you know, both David and Stephanie to arrive is that maybe Stephanie didn't do it, but I can tell you I called home a couple of times in tears. I swear I flunked that math test. Well, I aced it. Did I tell mum and dad I aced it? No, they remember me crying 3 days earlier saying I bombed it. So again, you know, there are going to be times when your kids may get emotional on a telephone, and that's okay. What you need to say, and particularly I direct this to mums because I'm a softie and I'm a mum, you know, it's okay, you've given it a go, you can come home. That's not the answer. Hey, you're having a bad day, what can we help you with from afar? You know, should you go and talk to someone, go and have a cup of tea, go and visit the international office, you know, so talk to us a little bit about that transition and that adjustment. First from your perspective, and then David, how you felt that you guys were sort of helping from afar.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I already spoke a little bit about that, like, intense schedule. That was honestly like a super big adjustment for me. I'm not sure I was quite expecting it to be so intense. I mean, I'm glad for it now. It's made me who I am today. And I guess probably another thing, it was really big at Harvard in particular, was that imposter syndrome. You kind of go there first day of classes and you're like, what am I doing here? Like, all these people are so smart, they know everything, they're like a walking encyclopedia. I'm like, what am I doing here? But I feel like no matter how hard it felt, you know, you find a way to get through it. You study for the exam, feel like you're going to fail it, or even when you take it, you're like, oh gosh, like you say, I flunked that. But you end up getting a good score anyway. So you kind of make it through no matter what, and you just kind of got to trust yourself to do that.
So David, I think sometimes it's a little bit different from afar, and sometimes you're so far away you probably feel that you're a little bit helpless, but you know, tell us about mechanisms that you think work for you and things that you could share tonight that you think could help others in the room.
Yeah, it was very hard. There's not a lot you can do from a distance. We did a lot of video calling, as you say. That was great. It felt like we were in the same room, but it was hard. Time difference too didn't help. But yeah, there was many a late night, early morning when Steph would call us, and you know, we'd be chatting and whatnot, so over whatever reason, but you just try and do the best you can, and it was tough. And then, you know, during that time we had COVID as well when she was at Harvard, so 2020 she got a bit of respite, being able to return home, spend some time at home, reset, because Harvard was very challenging for her, so yeah, definitely not a walk in the park, that's for sure, but yeah, we managed.
And Steffi, you nicely talked about, would you do it all over again? If you had the chance, would you do it all over again?
I mean, yes, for sure. I wouldn't be in the position I am today without that. I think academically I've walked away with 3 great degrees, set me up for hopefully a good career, we'll see. and the life skills you learn. You learn so many different life skills. You learn how to be independent. You're kind of alone over there. You have to figure it out yourself. You don't have mum and dad by your side. But I think there's something really special in that. I also just think I wouldn't be the athlete I am today. I wouldn't have achieved what I have without going over there. I think as a junior, I mean, I can only speak for track and field. Other sports may be different. But I know there wasn't going to be any support for me here. I was going to have to fund it myself, if I could even find a coach that, you know, would help me here, and then try and do university separately, have to probably get a job to fund that. It's just like, it doesn't really seem possible, or, you know, like the best environment to be able to like achieve your best. So I think, yes, I would do it again. But again, like, you're probably starting to figure it out. It's not easy. Super, super intense over there. You are alone. You kind of feel like you're half, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, you're half in America, half at home for, you know, 4 years is a significant period of time. But again, you have to make some sacrifices, and, you know, they paid off for me, so yeah.
And I think one of the things that you also need to decide is staying in Australia still might become a really good outcome. If you decide to stay in Australia, then I would challenge you and make sure you go on 1 semester exchange or 1 year exchange. I'd love you to pick the United States, but go anywhere where you have a flavour for. I think what's really also important is that when you start to research the colleges, it's the college that becomes your community for 4 years or 6 years if you stay on for masters or grad. And what you need to feel comfortable is what that community can provide to your sons and daughters. Because it's that community that is going to be their life for the next 4 to 6 years. And that's the decision process of what you need to decide. Administrations will come and go, but the college that you there is the brick mortar and the support mechanism for your sons and daughters. When you are starting to talk to coaches and you say, can I talk to a team member who's an international student? If a coach says, no, I don't let, you know, families do that, then I would say, do you really want to be going to that institution if that's what the coach believes? I think what's also interesting, and Stephanie, we haven't really talked about this, and we're going to try and open up a little bit to Q&A, and I want to show a couple of quick things on the website if I can, is that when you start communicating with coaches, you kind of have a sense of what they're like, and you can learn from their squads as well. And if you have a coach and you get a bad vibe, there's a bad vibe for a reason. I think athletes are very inert, and you have a real sense, I call it a Spider sense, not that I'm a Spider-Man fan, but I think you have a sense of, I think I can work here, and I think this matches, or, you know what, we have completely different philosophies. And if we have different philosophies, then perhaps it's not a good fit. So I'm going to have that as a closing question. Tell us about the coach connections. And one of the things that Stephanie said that we didn't address is that what you need to be deciding is, are you going to be always comfortable at this US college? If my coach leaves, is it the US college that I have the attraction for, or am I going to be miserable if my coach leaves? And when you are making these decisions, it really is about just the important college fit sometimes, more than sometimes the athletic fit as well. So I'm going to let you close with that question while I set something up on the computer, and then we'll do a couple of Q&As. Does that make sense? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just to address first the coaching connection side of things, you figure out pretty quickly if you're going to click with a coach, especially on, like, you know, some Zoom calls and stuff like that. You kind of get a vibe. Are they listening to you? If you ask questions, are they going above and beyond and doing that extra research for you if they're capable of that? And I don't know, I feel like sometimes when you talk to some coaches, you feel like you're being lectured to, and it's like, oh, that's not going to work. Like, you really want to find someone that you really feel comfortable, open with. Again, you're moving across the country, and the coach is probably going to be the only person you really know when you move over there. So it's really, really important that you have a really good connection with that coach. So, yeah.
David, tell us about the importance of that coach fit and how you are involved in that process too.
Yeah, I was just thinking to add to Steph's comments too, and I think it was mentioned earlier that you can't really, or in Steph's sport, we couldn't really just focus on a coach, a particular coach, because they were potentially going to move, so we had no control about that. But yeah, just as you narrow down your communications or your unis, with your online communications, discussions with the various coaches, and sometimes you have multiple discussions with them. You might ask them to find out about, I think it was probably diabetes, we probably questioned to see what support was there for us. So next time we chatted a week later, had they done some research? Had they spoken to the medical team? Was there support there? So, and that happened for various different reasons, but yeah.
All right, Stephanie, you're in the hot seat, my friend. So you know this website. She forgets, but I'm going to...
It's been a long time.
I know, it's been a long time. So this is the College Board search tool. I just want to show you a couple of resources. I want to show you how this works, and Stephanie is going to be my friend. So I don't know if Stephanie always knew she wanted to do neuroscience, so let's pretend she did not, because one of the things I love about a US college, and very much the system and the process, is that often you don't need to pick your major until the end of your second year at the US. Remembering, if you stay in Australia, your degree length will be 3 years, sometimes 4th if you need to do honours. When you go to an US university, your length of your program is 4 years. So often you'll be doing something called general education subjects a lot within your first 2 years, and then you'll be picking your specialisation. So you don't need to pick your major at day one. That being said, if you know what you wanted to study, then you can help drill that down. But did you know you wanted to do neuroscience?
I actually wanted to do biomedical engineering. I kind of went over there and, I'm used to the Australian system where, you choose what you want to do straight out of high school. So I was like, yeah, I want to go do this. But over there, they're very, encouraging of just study what you feel like studying, study what, you're passionate about. So I ended up, switching into neuroscience once I started doing some of those subjects I was really interested in.
So if you had a location where you wanted to go to first, you could put a particular location. But we're going to pretend that you're going to keep it open. You're chasing the scholarship with coaches. You want it open. So we know that Stephanie wanted a 4-year college, and that's a bachelor's degree. You could go down here and pick some other types if you wanted to, but that's all we're going to pick at that. Now, when we opened up this tool, I think it said there's 4,326 colleges. So let's go show colleges and let's see where it goes to. And now we're at 2,163. All right, now we're going to go affordability, because everyone needs to pay for school at some point. If your sons and daughters stay in Australia, please know that that education is not going to be free. That is going to be a HECS debt that your sons and daughters delightfully have that they then need to pay off as they go into their working life. So there is often a lot more funding at a US college, and if you are very good and talented and you can get that scholarship through a sport, fantastic, but you can also scholarship stack. So if you have some academic talent and a coach can pull money out of a different bucket and he or she doesn't need to use their bucket, then you become very recruitable and something that they want to go, ooh, you could be good for us because I can go into a different bucket. Now, when I said if you had a magical wand, where would you want to go? There is 8 very famous Ivy League schools, and they are very good, but there's only 8, and I said there's sort of 2,000 odd. But the Ivy League schools don't give a merit-based scholarship. Why? Because everyone going there is an A-grade student, so they're not going to give you merit scholarship. Interestingly, if you go to any of the Ivy League schools, they don't give you a sports scholarship either. You're like, what? I didn't know that. Well, I'm here tonight and I'm going to give you some information, and that is one of them. They don't give scholarship at any of the Ivy League schools. They were developed as a mandate that they were going to be an academic institution only, and they were not going to give sports scholarship. They're a needs-based financial aid school. What that means is they're going to ask your parents what colour underwear they have on tomorrow. Actually, that's not completely true, but it feels like that because you need to fill in a lot of private documentation in regards to your assets, your wealth, your wages, your tax returns, and they will evaluate that and saying, with this amount of assets, for Stephanie to come to our school, we would expect you to contribute this much. Do you want to do that? If you say no, then Stephanie cannot go to that school. So it becomes that sort of plan of, okay, what can we afford? What do we want to afford? What do we want to contribute? What I always do is push aid here for international students so that at least you know that they may give you some aid if you're going to that college. And now we're at 955. This is where the magic happens. And when you come to admissions, you can come down here and go, okay, where are my acceptance rates? I want to go to a strong academic school. So most selective, I want to wish schools. Samantha said reach for the stars, but Samantha said I also need some safe schools. So I'm going to go, let's go a little bit and show colleges. And now we're at 155. Okay, Stephanie, this is where you make your money tonight. These are the things that you need to highly consider. What kind of size institution? Did it really matter where you went? Do you understand why this could be important now in regards to where you're going? Or you go, Samantha, I didn't really care about the size. When you go down to the next questions, this becomes a whole lot more important. I didn't want to be in a major CBD city. I don't want to be urban. So if you don't pick urban, you're never going to be in New York. So I really wanted a college experience. And for a college experience, Samantha, that really is suburban and that could be rural. So I'm going to go, okay, let's pick this one and this one. And then we know that Stephanie was an athlete on the athletics track and team. So I think it's track here, Stephanie, maybe. Track and field women's, let's go here. Are you indoor and outdoor? Would your sport done both? So let's do this one as well for indoor women's and track outdoor as well. And go continue and go show colleges. But what we've done here, we've confused it. So then we go back and go, okay, let's go back to campus life. Oh yeah, let's go back and get rid of the indoor, all right. All right, let's do track and field. Well, we're getting a little bit clever. Campus life. So let's just go, get rid of that one, continue, show colleges. Now we're at 50. Now all of a sudden that list becomes a whole much more manageable. And this is where this tool becomes really good. The other quick one I want to show you is this tool. I love it. A very bored lawyer puts this together in New York. Let's go track. Oh, let's pick another sport. First sport I hear. Thank you. So let's pick golf. Hello, I should have picked that myself. So what it does really nicely is it categorises how many NCAA programs, Division I, II and III, NAIA, community college, all that kind of stuff. Number of teams, the amount of women and men, the amount of scholarships available at these programs. And then when you scroll down, it has a cool map. So someone who said golf, remembering snow is in the Midwest to the East Coast. So let's just say, I'm really interested in Georgia. So it says, okay, golf teams, Georgia, go to the South table. So you go down here, go to the South table, and go Southern schools. Let's go show all entries, go all, go down to Georgia, which is GA. And we'll be a bulldog today, so let's go to the University of Georgia. And why I love this website so much is it goes straight into the athletic department website. And then what I do, I'm going to go to the teams. I'm going to scroll, let me close this. I'm going to go to the teams. I'm going to scroll down and we'll find, give me a sec, because I don't have a mouse. We're going to go teams, we're going to go golf, we're going to go roster. So my golfer, who I think was out here, what year are you in? Okay, so you're a senior in high school. I don't want to embarrass you tonight in front of everyone in this room, but if you wanted to go to a Division I program as a male golfer, if you don't have a 0+ handicap, you're probably not going to get to the University of Georgia. But I would be looking about what their handicaps are. So it's about how you build your profile. So as a senior in Year 12 this year, that is what you are. What you need to be looking at when you look at this is you need to hope that there's a lot of seniors on their list. So he's a sophomore, he's a second year, he's a freshman, he's a first year, another sophomore, another freshman, one senior, one sophomore, and one junior. So that senior might be graduating, which means they only have one spot for their golf team. So all of a sudden, maybe you don't keep University of Georgia on your list. So it's about sort of doing that search and seeing if you've got people, graduating and being on that. And it's that kind of detailed research that you need to do. Do you know if the Harvard hammer thrower was graduating the year before you came or after, or tell me about that hammer throw history? Did you know about it?
Not really. I think it's hard, track and field. It's quite, like, there's a lot of events, so like there's a lot more room to move there. But once you're kind of in the team, that is very true. Like, you look at how many seniors are going, how you kind of know how many spots are going to open up, how much recruiting the coaches are going to do. So looking back on it now, I can see how that's definitely helpful.
So we're getting towards the end of the night. We understand that you all have busy lives, so thank you for sharing some of it with us tonight. We hope you found this incredibly helpful. We will send you an after-event email. You will have my contact details. If you are at a high school that you think they are not engaged with me, please encourage them to connect with me. One of the things that we did not talk about is the relationship with your schools are critical. You really need to be talking to your career teams if you haven't already, and they need to know that you going to the US is on their radar. If they don't know that, that's a disservice to them and you. And as I said, we are the authoritative source. We encourage you to keep on coming to our sessions, look at our recordings. We also have virtual office hours every Tuesday fortnight. We have one of those during the school day, done strategically so that you can connect with your career practitioners and us all at the same time to ask questions, but we're also doing fortnightly every Tuesday night, 6:30 to 8:30. So as I know some people are going to up and leave from the room, can you just put your hands together for the wonderful Stephanie Ratcliffe and her dad tonight, David? And I think what they've given you is something quite special and talking from the heart. So I hope you really have appreciated that. You know, talking in public is never easy. Interestingly, when you go to a US college, you will learn to do that very, very well, and you will become a well-rounded student. One of the things that we did not talk about, and Stephanie talked about her beautiful resume. Does anyone know Canva? Designed by Australians, so it's great. We have a wonderful example that we have created in Canva. And why I think Canva is great is it turns in a sport resume into an active web link, and you can do it all on one page. So we will give you an example of what we have created. You can like it, steal it, copy it, do whatever you want. Sometimes the rules are different. Some coaches, and on their websites, will say, our first interaction we want you to have with our institution is by filling in the questionnaire. So you really need to be looking at the athletic departments, because some of them will say, fill in this questionnaire first, and then we'll reach out to you as well. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, David. In closing, is there anything that you go, oh man, I wish I had said that? I think we're good. Ophelia, thank you so much. To everyone that came, thank you so much. Travel home safely, and we will communicate with you soon. Enjoy the long weekend, and thank you for being here.